She counted 4 guards between the car and the front door. Only 2 had been there last month. Camille Avery is black, a forensic auditor who once put men in prison with a spreadsheet. 2 years ago, she married Kang Hyun-woo, the man they call the Black Crane, for the ink that climbs the right side of his neck. She married into a fortress. Marble floors, a discreet watch, a matriarch at the head of the table, and a housekeeper who no longer meets her eyes. At dinner, they told her some things were not the concern of wives. Her husband cut food that did not need cutting and said nothing at all. So she stopped asking them. She followed the money instead. $11 million. Gone from the family foundation across 19 months. Bled out through shells that dissolved the week after they paid. She printed every page and laid the stack on his desk. He turned it face down. "You will stop," he said. "Not one page." She took the pages back, slow, in front of him. She walked out with every copy but one, because that last one was already gone from the tray, and she had not been the one to take it. A tracker sat on his desk. A drawer stayed 2 centimeters open. And then she stopped coming home. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Camille counted 4 guards on the walk from the car to the front door, and only 2 of them had been there last month. The gate closed behind her with a sound she had learned to hate. Somewhere past the wall, a dog she never saw began to bark and was silenced by a low command in Korean. She had married a house. She understood that now. Inside, Oh Win-ja took her coat and would not meet her eyes. The old housekeeper set a vase of white chrysanthemums on the hall table, adjusted one stem, and hurried toward the kitchen as if the flowers had somewhere to be. Camille watched her go. 2 years ago, Yoon-ja used to slip her rice cakes wrapped in paper and call her a good name in her own tongue. The paper had stopped coming in the spring. Park Jun-suk stood at the base of the staircase, gloved hands folded, earpiece catching the light. He nodded. She nodded back. Neither of them pretended it was warmth. Dinner was at 8, the way it was always at 8. Soo-jin sat at the head of the table where her son should have sat, spine straight, pearls at her throat, jade swinging at each ear. Hyun-woo took the seat to her right. Camille took the one across from him, and the length of polished wood between them felt like a decision someone had made on purpose. "You went to the district office today," Soo-jin said. "Not a question." "I went to the foundation office." Camille kept her voice level. "The Mapo clinic lost its funding line. I wanted to know why." The old woman lifted her spoon and set it down without eating. "The foundation is not a charity you manage from your telephone. Children get their vaccines there. Children in Mapo are not the concern of this family." Soo-jin turned the spoon a quarter turn on the cloth. "And some things in this family are not the concern of wives." The word sat in the room. Camille felt her jaw tighten and made herself release it. She looked at Hyun-woo. He was cutting something on his plate that did not need cutting. He set the knife down. He picked up his water. He looked at the crane on his own reflection in the dark window and said nothing at all. That was the loudest thing anyone said at the table. Camille ate 3 more bites so that no one could say she had run. Then she folded her napkin, placed it beside the plate, and stood. "Excuse me." Nobody stopped her. Upstairs, she did not slam the door. She sat on the edge of the bed, and her hand went to the fine gold chain at her collarbone, the one he had fastened there on a rooftop in Busan when he still told her things. Her thumb moved along it, back and forth, until her heartbeat came down. She had been a forensic auditor before she was a wife. She had put men in prison with a spreadsheet. The habit did not die because a matriarch told her to be smaller. At the desk in the corner, she opened her laptop and typed her way into the Kang Foundation's public filings, then into the ones that were not public. She was still on the board. Someone had forgotten to remove her name, and she was going to use that. The clinic in Mapo had run on $400,000 a year for 6 years. This year, the line read 0. She followed the 0 backward, the way she had been trained to follow anything that pretended to be nothing. At 2 in the morning, she stopped following. She sat with the light of the screen on her face and did not move for a long moment. Then she printed. The old machine on the shelf woke and pushed out page after page, warm, and she squared the stack against the desk until the edges were clean. $11 million, give or take, in American money, gone from the foundation across 19 months, in transfers small enough to sleep through an audit, each one routed through a shell that dissolved the week after it paid, not stolen in one greedy grab, bled. Someone patient had opened a vein in the family's charity and let it drip into the dark. She knew what patient looked like. She had married into a house full of it. Camille slept 4 hours with the pages under her pillow and the necklace still on. In the morning, Hyun-woo took his coffee in the study with the door open, which meant he expected to be alone. She walked in and closed it behind her. He looked up from his phone, and for half a second, the man she married was in his eyes, before the black crane arrived and put him away. "You're up early," he said. She laid the stack on the desk in front of him, squared, cover page up, the total circled in her own hand. "Read the number." He did not touch it. His gaze dropped to the circle, held there, and something behind his face went very still. "Someone is stealing from your own name," she said. 11 million. 19 months. I can show you every route. The clock on the shelf ticked twice. Hyun-woo stood. He came around the desk. He picked up the pages, tapped them level against the wood, and set them face down, as if turning them over could unprint them. "You will stop," he said quietly. "You will not open this again. Not the accounts, not the clinic, not one page." Hyun-woo. Not one page. His voice never rose. That was the frightening part. "Do you understand me?" She held his eyes. Down the hall, a door opened and closed, and she heard the soft, deliberate footsteps of a woman who was always listening. Camille reached out and took the pages back off the desk, slow, in front of him, and slid them into her bag. His hand twitched toward her wrist and stopped. "I understand you perfectly," she said, and she walked out with every copy but one, because the one she had left in the printer's memory was already gone from the tray, and she had not been the one to take it. The drawer was open 2 centimeters. Camille noticed it the way she noticed everything now. From the doorway, before her heels touched the floor. She crossed the study. She slid the drawer the rest of the way. The folder was there, exactly where she had left it the night before. The $11 million folder with the clinic's vanished funding traced line by line in her own hand. She lifted the flap. The copies were gone. Not all of them. He had left the top page, the summary, the one that meant nothing without the 6 pages of transfers behind it. Someone had taken the rest and returned the folder to look untouched, and had missed the drawer by 2 centimeters. She stood very still. Then she smiled, once, and closed the drawer with her hip. That afternoon, she went about her routine. The foundation offices, the car, the lunch she did not eat. Somewhere between the 3rd meeting and the elevator, she reached into her daily bag for her phone, and her fingers found something that did not belong to her. Flat, cold, the size of a coin. She turned it under the light of the parking garage. A tracker. Kang's security issue. She had seen the same matte housing clipped inside the driver's visors for 2 years. She did not throw it away. She wrapped it in a napkin and put it in the inside pocket, the one with the zipper. Hyun-woo came home at 9. He loosened nothing. Not the collar, not the watch, not the line of his mouth. He found her already in the study, seated on the edge of his desk, one heel resting on the floor and one swinging free. She placed the napkin on the blotter and unwrapped it. The tracker sat between them under the lamp. He looked at it. Something moved behind his eyes and then went flat, the way water goes flat over a stone. He recognized the housing. She watched him recognize it, and she watched him decide, in the same second, not to pretend he didn't. "Where was it?" he said, not a question either. My bag. Since when? I don't know. She let the heel drop flat. You'd know that better than I would. He crossed to the desk. He picked up the tracker, turned it once, set it down again exactly where she'd placed it, as if precision could undo the thing. His jaw worked. Was it you? She asked. The lamp hummed. A floor below them, a door closed, and Yoonja's slippers whispered down the corridor and faded. He held the silence for 4 full seconds. She counted them. And in those 4 seconds, she had her answer. Because a no would have come instantly, and a yes would have come never. And what came instead was the arithmetic of a man deciding how much she already knew. Camille. Was it you? I told you to stop. His voice dropped, careful, almost gentle, which was worse. I told you to stop, and you didn't. So someone made sure I knew where you were. That is not the same as... I understand, she said. She stood. She smoothed the front of her dress with both hands, one slow pass, and picked up her bag. Camille. No, I understand you perfectly. She said it without heat, and that was what made him step toward her. You needed to know where I sleep. Now you will. She left the tracker on his desk and walked out. She did not come home that night. He waited up. He told himself she was at Min Seo's, that she would call, that the front gate would light his phone at 2 in the morning. The gate stayed dark. At 6, he checked the tracker feed himself and found it pinging steadily from the top drawer of his own desk, going nowhere, mocking him. The next night, she didn't come home either, nor the one after. He did the thing men in his position do. He had Jun-suk pull the footage, the card records, the pattern of her movements. He sat in the study with the reports fanned across the blotter where the folder had been, and he read them the way he read a rival's ledger, looking for the man. There is always a man. The late nights, the address she kept returning to in Mapo, the money moving out of her private accounts in amounts too clean to be anything but a second life. He read for the lover. He did not find one. What he found refused to fit. She had not touched her clothes. Her dresses hung in the closet in their exact order, the wine, the chocolate, the dark green, none of them missing. Her passport sat in the safe. And on the 3rd morning, Yoon-ja brought him his coffee with her lined face folded in on itself and set something small on the saucer without a word. Her ring. No, he lifted it and turned it, and it was the ring's twin, the display ring, the one from the jeweler's box. The real one was gone with her. The gold necklace was gone with her, the fine one he'd clasped at her throat 2 years ago, the one she wore even sleeping. A woman leaving a man takes the man's gifts off. A woman leaving a man does not keep his gold against her skin in a bed he doesn't know. He stood at the window with the false ring in his fist and felt the floor of the story tilt under him. She had not filed. No lawyer had called. No papers had come. 3 days. And not one instrument of a woman getting free. No divorce, no division, no clean break. Every sign of a wife walking out and not a single sign of a wife leaving. Jun-suk stood in the doorway waiting for an order. The Mapo address, he said. Do you want the name of the building? Hyun-woo turned the ring over one more time. She wasn't running to something. She was going somewhere on purpose, keeping his ring and hiding the reason. And every fact he'd gathered to convict her had quietly built a different case in his hands. One he had not started, one he did not understand, one that had nothing to do with another man at all. No, he said, get me the deed. The kitchen light stayed on until 3. Hyun-woo sat at the long table with a cold cup in front of him and watched the driveway through the window. No car. He had told Yoon-ja to leave the gate camera feed running to his phone. She had done it without a word, only setting a plate of fruit beside him that he never touched. At 4, he called Jun-suk. Where is my wife sleeping? A pause on the line. Then the flat answer he had come to hate. We don't know. He set the phone face down on the wood. 2 years of marriage and the head of his security could not tell him which bed his wife was in. He turned the cup a quarter turn, then another, until the handle pointed away from him. The pattern held for 6 nights. She left the estate before dawn and returned to nothing he could trace. No hotel booked under her name, no apartment lease, no second phone the team could find. Junseok laid the reports on the desk each morning, and each morning the last line was the same. Subject location unconfirmed after 19 o'clock. A woman does not vanish, Hyunwoo said on the fourth day. Cars have plates. Buildings have doors. Her car crosses the river. Gangseo one night, Mapo the next. We lose her in the side streets both times. You have 30 men. She knows the streets better than the men do. That answer sat in him like a stone. He had married a woman who could disappear inside his own city, and he had never once asked how she learned to. He started sleeping in the study, so the staff would not see the empty side of the bed. He told himself it was suspicion, and for a while, suspicion was easier than the other thing. There was a man. There had to be a man. Women left, and when they left, there was always someone waiting on the other side of the leaving. He turned the idea over, the way he turned the cup, and it never got easier to hold. Camille, 3 districts away, was not waiting for anyone. She sat in a borrowed office above a shuttered pharmacy and moved numbers between accounts that did not carry her name. A wire out of a shell in Gangseo. A cash deposit walked into Mapo by hand. She paid 2 nurses their back wages from an envelope. She signed a supply order as a community trust and slid it under a door before the morning shift. She did all of it alone because the moment she brought in a second person was the moment the second person could be reached. She had learned that from watching how her husband's world worked. She had simply pointed the lesson somewhere he could not see. On the 7th night, the rain came. Hyunwoo was in the back of the car when Junseok's voice came through the earpiece. She crossed the bridge, Mapo again, same exit. Follow her yourself, only you. Sir, protocol. Only you. And I'm coming. He took the front seat beside Junseok and told the driver to stay home. They kept 2 blocks back with the lights off, wipers dragging across the glass. Camille's car turned off the main road, then again, into a district of old low buildings that the city had forgotten to modernize. Repair shops with the shutters down. A noodle place, dark. She parked without checking her mirror, stepped out under a broken awning, and walked into the rain like a woman who had done it 100 times. Hyunwoo watched her go and felt the floor of himself drop. She did not hurry. She did not glance back. She moved with the ease of someone arriving home, and that ease hurt worse than any lock or lie could have. He had spent 7 nights building a stranger with a man's face in his head, and now his wife was walking calmly toward a door in the dark, and he was about to learn the man's name. Wait here, he told Junseok. Sir? Wait. He got out. The rain took him at once, flattening his hair, soaking through the shoulders of the suit. He crossed the empty road. Camille was already gone through a narrow entrance beside a peeling storefront, and above that entrance, a small backlit sign buzzed against the wet dark. Avery Community Clinic. He stopped in the middle of the street and read it twice. Avery. Her name, bolted over a doorway in the poorest corner of Mapo, in a district his family would never drive through, on a building his surveillance had circled for a week and filed as unconfirmed. He walked to the glass door and pushed it. Unlocked. Inside, a waiting room the size of a garage, plastic chairs, a scale, a poster of a spine curling off the wall. 1 lamp burned at a reception desk stacked with folders. No receptionist, no patients at this hour. A corridor ran back past 2 exam rooms toward a door at the very end, and under that door, a thin line of light showed. He moved down the corridor slowly, water running off him onto the floor. The exam rooms were empty. Cots made, instruments covered, everything clean. Everything cared for by someone with no money and a great deal of will. At the end of the corridor, the small door stood barely ajar. The light behind it was low and steady. He could hear a kettle ticking as it cooled. He put his hand flat against the wood and felt his own pulse in his palm. Whatever was on the other side, he already understood he had been wrong about all of it, and he did not yet know how far wrong. He pushed the door open. The room was 6 square meters. Hyun-woo counted it without meaning to, the way he counted exits, and there were none here but the door at his back. A narrow cot against the wall, a kettle on the floor beside it, cord looped twice. 2 changes of clothes folded on a shelf that was really a plank on brackets. A laptop, closed, warm still under his palm when he touched it, and a stack of documents held down by a coffee mug, the mug ringed brown inside from 100 nights. On the little table by the cot sat a photograph and a ring. He knew the photograph, he was in it, younger by 2 years, and Camille was laughing at something outside the frame. The ring was hers. It caught the streetlight through the window and threw a thin line of gold across the wall. She was asleep on the cot, one hand under her cheek, and at her throat, catching the same light, the necklace he had given her. Hyun-woo stood very still and let the rain drip off him onto the concrete. He should have left. Instead, his hand went to the documents. The first page was a wire transfer. The account it emptied was hers, her own money, her name, the audit firm she'd built before she ever met him. The account it filled paid rent on this building in Mapo, nurses' wages, a generator, insulin, in bulk, at cost. He turned the page, and the next was the same, and the one after that. She had been feeding the clinic out of her own hands since the month the Kang Foundation cut off 4 community clinics without a meeting. He had signed that decision. Someone had put it in front of him, and he had signed it. Under the transfers was a folder. Gray, plain, one name printed on the tab. Kang Dae-shik. He opened it standing up. Companies he'd never heard of. Registered in a week. Dissolved in a month. Transfers routed through each one like water through a maze, until $11 million came out the far end clean. Authorizations bearing his own signature, except he had never signed them. His uncle's smile was not on the page, but it was on every line of it. And clipped to the last sheet, in her handwriting, a single note. Hyun-woo probably doesn't know. He read it twice. He set the folder down more carefully than he had picked it up. You sleep here. He hadn't heard her wake. She was sitting up now, the blanket pulled at her waist, her voice flat with sleep and something older than sleep. Yes, she said. He turned the note in his fingers. How long? 23 nights. He crossed the small floor. He did not know what his face was doing. He reached for her, the way a man reaches for the last solid thing on a sinking deck, and she leaned back out of it, unhurried. No, she said. His hand stopped in the air between them. Finding out where I sleep doesn't fix why I stopped sleeping with you. She swung her feet to the cold floor. You didn't protect me. You decided that protecting me meant not listening to me. Those aren't the same thing. He had no answer that was shorter than his whole marriage. I brought you the numbers, she said. You told me to stop, so I stopped bringing them to you. She nodded at the gray folder. And I kept working. He looked at the note again. Hyun-woo probably doesn't know. She had built the case that could have ended him, and left a door open in it for the chance that he was only blind, not guilty. He did not deserve the door. He walked through it anyway. He did not make her a promise. He had learned, in one room, exactly what his promises were worth. He acted instead. Before dawn, he called Park Jun-suk and dismissed the surveillance team. Every tracker, every log, the account that had watched his wife move through the city. He handed her the folder back and told her it was hers to spend. Then he took her evidence, not his instinct, and followed it the way she had built it to be followed. Dae-shik never saw the shape of it until the accounts froze. Companies he thought were smoke turned solid in a prosecutor's hands. The forged authorizations, laid beside the real signatures, told their own story to people the Kang name could not reach. By the time the old man understood, he had already been removed from the boards, and the intermediaries who carried the file to the authorities did not carry his name back out. Soo-jin came to the clinic alone. She stood in the doorway of the 6-meter room, a long moment, jade earrings still, and looked at the cot and the kettle and the mug. She had been handed papers too, once. papers that made a daughter-in-law into a thief. She did not apologize with words. She started coming on Thursdays, in a plain coat, to fold sheets. Hyunwoo changed the only way that counted. He gave Camille full access, every account, every door, every room he had ever kept shut. For 3 weeks, he slept in a chair in the clinic corridor, while she slept in the cot, because trust is not a sentence you say, it is a place you are willing to stay. On a Thursday, the ring went back on her hand. She put it there herself. The independent board renamed the foundation that spring. Kang Avery, both names the same size on the brass. At the ribbon cutting, he stood beside her with the oversized scissors, and when the cameras were ready, he put them in her hand instead of his. She cut the ribbon, the old sign came down, and the new one caught the light. "You made it yours," she said, quiet, only for him. "No," Hyunwoo said, "now it's ours." If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever given everything to a family that decided you were not their concern? When you found the truth they wanted buried, did you stay quiet to keep the peace? Or did you lay the pages on the table and let them see the number? And if the person you loved told you to stop, would you have the courage to keep your own name? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, truth, and loyalty, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.